Good afternoon, everyone. I think I turned up the stage a few seconds earlier than I should. Apologies for that. No one noticed. Okay, a great panel with us today. We have combined different backgrounds, different experiences. Chema is in the corporate world, Lee and Pierre in the education world, one in the online education, the other one in the offline education. So a great combination, mixture. The three of them are actually entrepreneurs or have been entrepreneurs at some point in life. And two of them have PhDs. The other one hasn't, is too young, or maybe he wasn't born in Spain. But anyway, let's start with the panel. And Chema is the Chief Data Officer of Telefónica. All of you know them. He's also in charge of the big data strategy of the company. He's been an entrepreneur with his company, Informática 64, which then was acquired by Telefónica. He's a PhD in computer security and computer engineering. So lots of things, lots of experience. And my first question to you, Chema, will be, or is, I mean, from all your experience in the tech world or in the tech sector, how has tech talent evolved? I mean, from two perspectives. Is it very different what needed to be learned 15, 20 years ago than what needs to be learned now? Is it different how it's learned? What does the market actually needs or is asking for?
Well, first of all, hello hackers, how's it going? Are you enjoying it? Yeah? Are you having fun? Yeah? Very well. Well, the truth is that I've been thinking all the time about this afternoon panel, and when we were trying to discuss about the first question, I was trying to think exactly what is the kind of thing that I believe about that, and it's very complex. I think that today we are in a very complex world. I think that today there are too many different abilities that are needed in the world, but taking into account in the tech area, just thinking about technology, thinking about what are the skills that are the most useful for people in order to create technology or to disrupt the world in which we are working on. I think that the most important is to have learnability, the ability to learn everyone new things every day. So today when we are trying to hire new people, when we are contracting new tech people to work into Telefónica, to work in our areas, it's very complex to look for people with, I don't know, cognitive intelligence capabilities that knows, I don't know, deep learning algorithms, I don't know, even the most skilled people in managing machine learning techniques or big data infrastructure, etc. So in the end, technology is evolving very quickly, and it's very difficult to find one single person that accomplishes all the needed that you have for the task that you need to do in your job. So we try to find talent people with the learnability, with the ability of getting new knowledge every day to deal with the complexity of new ideas, to be able to understand what is unknown for them at the beginning and put it in practice. So that's the most difficult skill that we are looking for, and for me is the most important. When I started to learn technology, I was 12 years old, and the only thing that I needed to learn was BASIC, which is a very common language. And okay, the most powerful people, the hackers, were able to learn assembler, and that's all. The rest of the thing was something magic for the future. But today there are too many specialties, and we need to have people with the ability of learn every day, because if not, it's going to be impossible for them to create technology that disrupt the technology that we have today.
I mean, the obvious question before I jump to Pierre is, how can you measure learnability, or how can you identify learnability within the candidates that you hire?
Well, we use a lot of tricks, but we in a normal interview, we used to say, and I've been doing a lot of interviews, is the first thing is, okay, show me something that you've been done. I don't want to ask you things. Show me something that you've been done. Show me something that I can see, and let me analyze how you have been doing this. And the second question is, okay, this is a problem that is very complex to solve in 1 hour, but I want to see you think about the problem. I want to see if you have some skills to learn new things, or if you at least have some tools to try to solve the problem. There are two very important questions in our interviews, and if the candidate is not able to show to show us something that he did even when he was a child, when he was a teenager, just at home with friends or whatever, and for him or for them it's impossible to think about the next step, trying to be closer to solve the problem, then probably it's not going to be hard in our team.
Okay, thank you. Lee, who is sitting beside you. Lee, what are the IE's views on this tech talent landscape and the issue of deep versus broad?
So I think when we think about the landscape of technology, especially within companies, I'll start there with the landscape, and we think about sort of what types of talent, tech talent, and where are they. One of the points I wanted to make is that I think that the traditional roles of tech user and tech provider are totally outdated, in the sense that, pick a department, the marketing department. So you've got somebody in the marketing department that's got some tech tools, some business intelligence tools, for example. So they're a user, and then you've got the IT department or the business intelligence department that might provide them with some tools. But I think that model doesn't really work anymore. And I think the reason is because if you're in a function like marketing now, you need to have native digital skills. And when I say native digital skills, I'm not talking about you grew up with mobile devices and you know how to flip them. That's what we say native digital is. What I mean is you need to have innate abilities to think and work in digital and in analytics as part of what you do in marketing, for example. And so I think that that's on the user side, and then you can have an IT department that's increasingly trying to be customer centric, and they go out to the business departments like marketing or finance or whatever it might be, and ask questions like, well, how can we give you the tech tools or analytics tools that you need? But I think that because they're far away, because they're centralized, that is becoming increasingly difficult. And so, having said that, then I'll make sort of 3 comments, 3 predictions in terms of implications. I mean, one is that I think someone who's in a business function and has primarily business training, I worry quite a lot about their future if they don't get these innate digital skills, right? I worry quite a lot. I think they have to learn to think and work in digital, as I said before. And so on the same side, I think people that are working in tech, they need to have an understanding of not only of the business that they're working within, but they need to have some of these innovation methods training, I mean Agile or Scrum or whatever it might be, so that they can do the things that they need to do. So the way we think about it is if it's sort of a river and you have 2 banks, and you have business on one side and you have tech on the other side, I think what we're going to see is that the river needs to get narrower. We need to join the 2 banks closer together. And so in doing that, the second implication of what I mentioned, we see as being a massive need for people that I'll call bridgers, or translators or hybrids. I mean, people who can do both, whether they're business techies or whether they're tech-savvy business people, it doesn't matter. They need to have the mix of skills. And so last point I'll make is that I think if we think about the war for talent, and there is a war for talent, I mean, the companies are desperate to try to get tech talent in any country at this point, from deep talent to the more broad talent that is the topic of this panel. But I think what we see happening is that deep talent, I mean, people who are good at some of the things you mentioned, reinforcement learning, or very deep learning, very narrow kinds of things that they're drilling down on. I mean, there's a clear over-demand now and a lack of supply because schools, I mean, these are new fields. But I think we as schools are responding rapidly. I mean, we have degrees in all these things now in computer science and data science and so forth, and other schools as well. So I think the structural, the market problem of having too much demand for deep techies and not enough supply is going to lessen. Where I think that the war for talent is going to continue is for these bridgers, these translators, because it's not that we're not trying to train them, it's a very hard thing to do as a person. I mean, it's a cognitive thing. I mean, how many of you think about your own strengths and weaknesses? How many of you are able to dive deeply into math or into programming and at the same time sort of broaden your thinking outwards and understand business problems and the financials behind it, et cetera? It's a special person. And so I think that is always going to be a short supply, and we're trying to train more and more of those types of people, but the demand for them, I think, is enormous.
Okay, thank you. We'll pick up on some of the topics you mentioned later about this bridgers category, which I think is very interesting. But let me jump on to Pierre. Pierre is a 29-year-old experienced entrepreneur. It's almost embarrassing to be sitting beside him. He is leading Open Clasrooms. Is an online campus which has over 3 million unique users per month and is in over 140 countries. Probably no one better than you can tell us what's being demanded by the market now, because you can see immediately what people are asking for in terms of training, and also if people like it more or like it less. Tell us, on your experience, what are the skills that are being demanded now? Are they deep tech? Are they bridge skills, as Lee was mentioning? And also tell us a little bit about this talent experiment which you are running in Open Clasrooms, which touches upon these issues which we are talking about here.
Awesome. Thank you, Manuel. Hi, everybody. So my name is Pierre. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Open Clasrooms. I can give you a very short overview of Open Clasrooms to give you a bit of context. So we started Open Clasrooms 5 years ago as a mission-driven company whose mission is to make education accessible. Started this actually almost 20 years ago as a personal project in 1999 with my co-founder. We was 13 years old. I was 11 years old. We were in middle school and started to create online courses to help some friends. The very first course was on web development in HTML. Published that online. It was like the easiest way to share it to friends, and then friends of friends started to come along, and we built it and made this online community, this online learning community grow and grow. And after more than 10 years doing so as a hobby, we turned into a fast-growing, mission-driven company. So this is Open Clasrooms, and our aim is to make professional education accessible. So education leading to jobs, to a better employability. So we try to work and tackle the skills gap, the digital skills gap, which is quite interesting because roughly a third of the jobs and competencies as we know today will be impacted by technology in the next 12 years, by 2030. So basically it's a third of the global workforce that needs to be reskilled in 12 years. That's 1 billion people, okay? So 1 billion people to be reskilled on digital skills. It's highly likely that traditional education, like on-campus college education, won't make it at this stage and at that scale. So we created this platform. That in mind, we create and deliver fully online programs leading to degrees and jobs. So we try to link both of them, academic degrees, associate, bachelor's, and master's degrees, with competencies and jobs in high demand. So it's kind of a two-sided platform. We have students, we have employers, we train students, make them graduate, and then place them in the workforce, and we provide employers with talent, with the competencies they need. And the cornerstone of the pedagogy is actually the competencies. So we need to design the programs in terms of competencies and sets of competencies, and to provide the right competencies and to understand the competencies that are needed by employers. Can be hard skills, can be soft skills. I can comment a bit more on that. So right now we train, like you said, 3 million students a month on 60 different degree programs in English, French, and Spanish in 140 different countries. We raised $70 million. We're about 115 staff and 1,000 teachers. So the teachers are either faculty or mentors, so teaching assistants professionals in the field coaching one-on-one via video conference every degree student. So it's highly personalized and high touch. And again, the goal, the outcome is really the jobs and the competencies. So we actually started working on a new product a year and a half ago to really directly bridge the skills gap. So we have employers with a talent shortage. They want to hire like data scientists, UX designers, and software engineers, or digital marketers, etc. And on the other hand, you have an employment program. You have job seekers. You have school dropouts. And overall, you have also a lack of diversity and inclusiveness in the tech industry. So we started asking employers like IT services companies, like large banks, how many data scientists do you want to hire this year? And the answer was like 200. OK, so what are the requirements to hire a data scientist? So at first, the answer was, I want a graduate from Stanford. And we asked them, OK, do you know there are only 300 graduates from Stanford every year with that kind of set of skills? So even if you hire like half of the entire university, you won't make it. So you need to have to develop other hiring channels. So we took their orders in terms of jobs, competencies. So I want to hire 50 data scientists in Madrid, in Berlin, in New York, with those competencies. And then we created a company-tailored curriculum, a degree program. We then found students, we pre-qualified them, and then they went through the employer's hiring process. And they were hired by the employer from day one. So we started with Capgemini, a global IT services company, and they hired those new students from day one. So it's not a job at the end, it's really a job from day one. They were not data scientists yet, or developers, or whatever job. They were on their way to become. And we sourced them, we pre-qualified them on technical prerequisites, but also their ability to learn. And the first kind of learning analytics we found about them on our own platform. Like they went through a couple of different courses, and then we select them. And they have a work contract from day one, they have a salary from day one, and they have the work and study program, apprenticeship program. So it means tuition fees are covered by the company. It means they work for 4 days a week in the company, and they are trained 1 day a week on open classrooms. And the projects that they will work on inside the company will actually be assessed academically and provide credits that will validate their degree. And they will graduate in like 12 to 18 months. They'll have a job, they'll have a degree, et cetera, et cetera. So this product has been a tremendous success. We deployed new cohorts in many different companies. So it's really interesting because it's like completely a win-win situation for everybody involved. But the challenge we face now is to make sure that employers also change the way they think, how they recruit, and not based on just degrees, but they need to think of the jobs and the competencies behind the jobs that are actually needed. When you think of competencies, you can then widen your talent pool, and you can get into alternative degrees or other kinds of degrees. You can get into apprenticeship, and you can have a more diverse and inclusive way of hiring. So this is the main challenge we are facing. So how do we change the recruitment pipeline with employers?
Yeah. I mean, recently there was this news that high-tech companies like IBM and Apple and Google were not using the university degree barrier anymore to hire tech talent because there were so many alternative ways to acquire these skills, or maybe because current training is not fulfilling these needs. I mean, building upon what you previously said, Lee, I mean, and for the sake of the discussion, we could simplify the world into non-talent or non-tech talented people, deep tech talented people, and those those bridge, tech talented people which are in the middle. Recently, former CEO of General Electric, Jeff Immelt, he said that everyone in the company, over 70,000 employees, would need to know how to code in a few years. Is that extreme view? I mean, would you apply that to bridge talented people and non-tech talented people, or only to tech talented people? I mean, what are the skills that everyone is going to need to have? Also, please, Chema, I'd like to have your view in Telefónica in the coming years.
So my answer would be yes. I think that certainly the bridgers all need to learn how to code. I would argue that the people that you were calling the non-tech talent also need to do it, because I think it's a fundamental building block. I mean, it's sort of like saying, I'm going to work in finance, but I'm not going to know how to use Microsoft Excel. In the old days. I mean, you have to understand how computation works to work in digital, because fundamentally that's what it's about. Now, my caveat would be that I think the way coding is happening might change, right? And so we're seeing a lot of changes in terms of plug and play, and in terms of point and click. So I mean, things that I tried to do with neural networks when I was doing my PhD, I had to code everything I did by myself. But now I could just fire up an environment and have some plug and play tools to do it all in 1/100th of the time. And so if that happens to coding, then I think the barrier, the sort of the difficulty or the fear that a lot of people have in learning to code goes away. Because now if I can construct, let's say, a computational engine that I need to do something, whether I'm in marketing or finance or wherever I may be working, if I can do that in a way that doesn't quite require the depth that the deeper techie or the translator might have, then I think everybody needs to know how to do that. And I don't think we're far from that point.
Chema, what's your view?
Well, I have an interesting story about that. Probably most of the people don't know that before I got into Telefónica, our actual president told me, you need to get into Telefónica. And I said, no, not at all. I never been into Telefónica. And before I said yes, I was teaching him every Friday in the afternoon how to hacking techniques, how to code, etc. So today, if any of you have the opportunity of going to our president's office, you can see that there is an Amstrad computer with a basic manual, because I gave it to him to learn how to code, because our president wanted to know how to code, and he was learning how to code, because for Telefónica, which is a technology company, it's a very important requirement. And we were analyzing what were the gaps that we had into Telefónica. And I remember that when in Telefónica we launched Wayra, which was a very big bet for Telefónica, trying to open innovation to third party, to entrepreneurs, to tech people that appear with different point of view, different ideas, etc. I was invited to visit Wayra, and at that moment, I was asking to all the entrepreneurs about their ideas, how is the project they were building up, etc. And after finishing that, I remember that I was questioned about my point of view of the startups. And I remember that I said, okay, I see a lot of Steve Jobs, few Steve Wozniaks. And the actual president told me, who is Steve Wozniak? And I said, okay, that's the problem. We need Steve Wozniak into Telefónica. And we created a program, which is Talentum. Some people of Talentum is still here, is in the room. And the idea of Talentum was very aligned with that vision. We were looking for young people, not with the degree finished, just brilliant people with deep tech knowledge about the new technologies, with a new way of using technology. It didn't matter at that time if you have a university degree or not, and we were hiring a lot of people. And today we have internally in our team, I don't know, more than 100 people coming from that program, from that Talentum program. And at the beginning, they were young people with no degree. Some of them never finished their degree. Some of them are still studying in the university. And for us, it's important to open that way of hiring people with tech talent, because if not, it's completely impossible to fulfill all the vacancies that we have.
Yeah, I mean, could I infer, or could one infer from your statement now and from Pierre's previous one, that the most valuable players or the most valuable talent right now in the eyes of the companies are the deep talent guys? Is that the case or not? Because contrary to that vision, Jack Ma recently in a World Economic Forum speech, he said that all these tech skills were going to be overtaken by machines, and that we should be teaching people, how to love, how to take care of others, integrity. But I listen to you guys, and it appears that companies are looking for hardcore tech people.
So I personally think that educational providers, universities and schools, should right now create what we call T-shaped profile, so shaped like a T. So it means a horizontal basis of general education, meaning soft skills, critical thinking, learn how to learn, work as a team member in a team, creativity, leadership, these kind of things. And actually, when you talk to employers, they do think it's very important to them. They're not just thinking of Python and data science and digital marketing. They're also thinking of I need decision maker, I need leaders, etc. So this is the basis, the kind of horizontal way you have to think of that. And then you have this deep vertical understanding and knowledge, which is my specialization as a data scientist or project manager or a business analyst or an accountant. And I think you need both. I do think also it varies depending on your level, your current level of education. We deal from school dropouts with no high school diploma or even middle school diploma up to PhDs from MIT or Oxford. And I can assure you that whenever you're unemployed for 5 years, you don't have a high school diploma, you don't have a college education, you're not looking for general education right now. You're looking for a job. You're looking for the shortest training program, the hard skills needed to have a first job, and then you can move up the ladder. But I think we need also not to think just of master's degrees and Ivy League type education. We need to think of the people left on the side of the workforce right now. How can we bring them back in the workforce and on a learning path that will take years, but can get you to the top?
I was just going to add, that, I agree 100% with the idea of the T, and in fact, for example, we have a bachelor in data science where they spend the entire first year doing liberal arts and sciences to build critical thinking, leadership, behavioral skills, etc. I might update it a little bit to say that if we keep the alphabet analogy, I'd make it an F rather than a T, in the sense that I think, based on what I said earlier, that the bridgers or the translators are going to be in more demand, not now, but in the future. Maybe drill a little bit less down the T and then drill across, go across a little bit, to make it an F, in the sense of being broad enough in tech, especially at the bachelor level, to not just be so deep that if that particular hole where you've drilled down disappears because it's either been automated or technology's changed, you're broad enough to then adapt and be agile, as Chema was saying earlier, learn how to learn, and you have that broader basis to do that. So I think it's a mixture of deep, broad, with the cap of liberal arts and science foundations.
Okay, and how do you keep up? I mean, this touches upon this learnability concept which you mentioned in the beginning. I mean, things are evolving rapidly. Knowledge becomes obsolete also very rapidly. So in order to keep up in a company, you need to kind of recycle talent all the time. And also that poses a huge challenge for educational institutions because you need to update content and your educational proposal. And that, does that affect your model? And does that affect, profitability? Because it's always easier to industrialize, content and sell it for a short, long period of time, but that cannot be done any longer, right? So first, from your perspective, Chema, from a corporate, how do you go about keeping up, with tech talent? And from your educational perspective, how do you, make it possible to recycle and update your value proposition to students?
Internally in our team, the tech talent is very important. I need to say that in the Chief Data Officer, more than half of the people are just technical talent, and the other are focusing different business units. So it's the biggest area is the technical part, which is CTO internally. Mm-hmm. And we try to create a culture about that. We do a lot of things. We have people trying to take the rest of the people how to learn, how to use all the tools that we have. Today is wonderful. We have internet with all the resources that you need, online courses, books, whatever you need, videos, conferences, talks, etc. And internally we have a lot of activities try to spread that culture. We have hackathons internally, we have short times of production with extra time for your own time. You can do and learn whatever you have. We have innovation areas, so if you want to learn something, you can move to an innovation area for a time and then go back to your product team and working with the rest of the people you are working normally. We have a very flexible structure in which someone can be moved from one project to another project, from one day to another day, etc. But the most important is the culture. You need to have that culture internally in the company. If not, if you are doing something ad hoc every time that you have a problem with technology, you are doing wrong things because it's not part of the DNA that you need in your team.
Okay, thank you. Lee, and then Pierre.
I would say that it doesn't affect our model, but it affects the process by which we execute our model, in the sense that keeping up to date requires that we go out to companies constantly and talk to them and say, what do you need now? And the technologies or the skills, the competencies, as you called them earlier, Pierre, I mean, the competencies that they need change really rapidly. So right now, we might be doing Hadoop and Python and Tableau, but you might tell us, no, we've moved on, we're in the process of changing, we need X, Y, and Z in the future, and so we have to change it. And that means, that puts a lot of pressure on us in the sense of, it might be a different professor. I mean, maybe we stop teaching Python and we start teaching, I don't know, Julia or something, and so now we got to find probably a new professor. So for us, it makes us have to be quite agile and move quickly. It also for us means that to stay current, you guys have both mentioned the idea that the label I would put on it is lifelong learning. And so you can get a bachelor's or a master's, but that's laying the bricks, the foundations, I think. And so to stay up to date, I mean, you can't keep doing master's degrees. You need smaller Lego blocks to put in there. And so we actually, at IE University, we have a whole unit that we call exponential learning. And the idea there is that, you've got to be exponential and fast, and you got to keep updating. And so the combination of degree programs and smaller bricks that you add to your foundations is the way that we see it. So it's not a different model, but it makes us change our processes quite a bit.
Thank you. Pierre, quick last word on that one.
So it affects negatively our financials in the way that we need to maintain the programs. At least 20-25% of every program will be ditched and recreated every year on digital skills, so that's quite of an investment. So it affects the processes, and you need to be more agile. More positively, for universities, it can be really opportunities, because instead of providing just like this 4-year bachelor's program between 18 to 24, then you'll be able to provide several times in their lifetime new programs. So you know that a graduate right now in Europe, when they graduate, they know that they're gonna probably experience between 10 to 15 different jobs in their lifetime, in their career. So they will switch careers at least 10 times. So as a university, you can be there for them. You can help them convert and switch careers 10 times, and sometimes by small blocks, sometimes with a stronger, deeper program. So it means more revenue overall, because you can resell to your graduates and to your alumni. So I think overall, it's a huge opportunity for educational providers.
Thank you. Okay, we're running out of time. Just to wrap up, we've spoken here about learnability, about different types of profiles which will be needed in the future, T profiles, F profiles. We can split the talent into two categories of the bridgers, the deep tech talent people, and the non-tech talented people. What is clear is that staying still is not an option. We are in the era of lifelong learning. Thank God we have alternative sources of learning. We have online courses. We have courses like IE, and then you have people who learn by themselves, like Chema. So I tend to think that the future is a mixture of all these sources of knowledge, and above all, it's learning by doing. So thank you very much. Give them a warm hand towards us. That's it.